My name is Garner Williams, and today we're at Schaffhauser Electric. And what we're going to do is be looking at the Greenleaf 5500, and we'll be building half-inch EMT, electrical metallic tubing. But before we get started actually using the bender, I would like for us to go over some basic definitions. This method that we use here at Schaffhauser is not that commonly used in the field. So if you have done some bending, this may be totally different than what you're accustomed to. The first thing we want to look at is to be able to identify the parts of a circle. We have the radius, we have the diameter, chord, so radius, the distance from the center to any point on the circle. Diameter is twice the distance of the radius. The arc, a portion of the outline of the circle. The chord, a straight line whose end point both lies on a circle. And circumference, the distance around the circle. Radius, diameter, chord. So let's look at A. So what did we say A was? That's the distance around the circle. That would be circumference. B is a straight line through the circle. What would that be? Diameter. C is the distance of the bend. Radius. D is the arc. And E is the chord. All right, kick. A single bend or less than a 90. Degree of bend. All right, if we notice, we see our circle, okay, and this will be our radius from here to here. That's the radius, and we're going to study later on how to calculate and how to use our radius. This is textbook. I'm not even going to read the textbook definition of gain. I think a gain, when we look at gain, it's better if we walk through the process of actually bending the conduit. And once we bend it, then this textbook definition will make sense. But right now, we'll table that for now and come back to it later. All right, leg length. Sometimes is referred to as tail. So one thing about the electrical field that's confusing and also frustrating for the apprentices, and it's still frustrating for me, is the many different names that we have. And not just trade names, but also textbook names as well. So tail or leg is the distance from the back of the bend to the end of the conduit. And while we're on this graphic, stub is the distance from the top of this conduit to the back of the bend, okay? Let's look at deduct, and here again, deduct, another name for deduct is minimum stub height. And as you can see, for each size conduit, the stub height changes. Today we're going to be using 3/4 EMT. A 3/4 EMT this chart says 9 inches. So we need to check on this and verify this is the correct minimum stub. And when we get to bending, we'll verify that. Like is the length of the bent section of conduit measured from the bottom center line or the top of the straight section to the end of the bent section. That's a fancy way of saying if you put your tape measure on the ground and measure up, that would be how you would measure the rise. Offset heights are measured from the base. Now, where my laser pointer is, that would be like the conduit was placed on the floor. And if I wanted to measure the size, the offset, I would measure from the floor to the bottom of the conduit. From the floor where the conduit is placed to the bottom would be your offset height. This graphic is demonstrating a parallel offset. Spring back. When we're bending our conduit, we bend it, let's say to a 93 degrees, 3 degrees past 90, and then when we release the bender, it springs back. So we have to, the bender has to go a little further. If we're bending a 90 degree, we'll have to go probably 93, 94 degrees. This bend is what we call a back-to-back. The back here to the back here. So if this measured 70 inches, it will be from the back of this bend to the back of this bend. So this would be a 70-inch back-to-back. Now, this measurement, 12 inches, would mean we'd have a 12-inch stub on A side, and let's put a 12-inch stub on B side. So what we're looking at is a 70-inch back-to-back with a 12-inch stub on each side. Stub will be the top of the conduit to the back of the bend, which would be placed, let's say, on the floor. All right, this is a 3-point saddle. The reason it's called a 3-point saddle, we bend 1, 2, 3 bends. This is a 60, this will be a 30, and this will be a 30. These two numbers, these 2 degrees of bend will always add up to your center bend. Four-point saddle. The reason it's called 4 points, we bend 1, 2, 3, 4 bends. unlike the three-point saddle, every one of these bends will be the same. So if we use a 30 degree on one bend, we use 30 degree on all bends. Okay, this is a back-to-back. All right, so so how do we measure this back-to-back? Back of the bend to the back of the bend.
Gardner, we're gonna pause it on this
Okay.
slide. Go
Okay.
ahead. Pause. Okay.
Go ahead, pause.
Pause.
And we're just.
Am I not